Hi and welcome to this short tutorial where we're going to model a simple conveyor, two merging conveyors that move boxes from point A to point B. So we're going to create a layout for our process. First of all, we place a source here and a source down here for two different entities, two different boxes. Then we place a server and we place a sink. So the idea is to create a merging conveyor that takes the input from source 1 and bring it to the server 1, as well the input of source 2 to server 1. So first of all, we place two different entities here. So we call the first entity box 1 because we want to move boxes in this case, and the second entity we call box number 2. So we could color these entities with different colors, but I think I will apply a symbol because we have many symbols related to boxes in our standard library. So we apply a symbol to box number 1, and I think I will go very simply to box 1. And then I will take another symbol for box 2, which will be, surprise, surprise, called box 2. We make it slightly bigger in this case. So now we want to merge the conveyors at a certain point here and go straight to the server. So in order to create a conveyor, we first need to create a reference node, a reference object that represents the point in which the conveyors are joining. So I will take a basic node and I will place it here as a reference in order to create the conveyor. So now I just scroll down a little bit here and I will take the last item of a standard library. I will click on conveyor twice and I will draw a conveyor from the input of source 1 to the basic node, then from a basic node to the input of server 1, and then of course a conveyor from source number 2 to this reference node. Never forget also to create a path between the output of server 1 to the input of sink 1. So path, and I do like this. So when you draw a conveyor, it's not very different from a path. So I think one aspect that is pretty interesting in order to improve also the way the model is communicated is to change the decoration for the conveyor. So if you click on a conveyor, for instance conveyor number 1, you see you have the option to display it in a different way than a path. I think I will do that in order to make things much clearer. So I will click on this conveyor, and this will be pretty large to be honest. So we need probably later to resize the model, but for now it's okay. So I will select also conveyor number 3 and pressing Control conveyor 2, and I will apply the same symbol. So we can see that also from a three-dimensional perspective. This is a conveyor that is basically taking the boxes like this. I go back to a two-dimensional view. So very importantly, I want to change also the properties of the conveyor. So the conveyor going from source 1 to this joint is moving at 3 meters per second. This one from source 2 to the reference point is moving at 4 meters per second, and from the reference point to the server is moving at 2 meters per second. So I want to be able to change this property too. So I click on the conveyor, and you see there is a travel logic property window that is popping up. Very simply, we can change the initial desired speed. So the units of the initial design speed are by default in meters per second. We change it to 3 meters per second, and this is going to be the speed of the first conveyor. Then we take the conveyor from source 2 to the reference point. We said that this should be more or less 4 meters per second. So we check the units and we write 4. The conveyor from the reference point, the merging point, to the server instead is 2. And we keep it like this. Very good. So also we can change the length of the conveyor. So the length of the conveyor now is essentially defined by the distance between this point to this point in relation to the grid that you see in the background. So this means that the conveyor is drawn to scale in relation to the grid. We can change that. So we can take conveyor number 1 and modify the item related to drawn to scale. So we can do like this and write false instead. And we can add a logical length of the conveyor. We can make it as long as we like without modifying the visualization of the model. So let's say that this conveyor is 20 meters long. When we take the second conveyor, the third conveyor in fact, from source 2 to the reference point, we can also change this property of being drawn to scale to false. And the logical length of this one is 30 meters. This in fact, meters is always the default unit for conveyors and path. This last conveyor where this merge, so this is drawn to scale, we set it to false, and the logical length is only 5 meters. Just check if it is meters, yes. Well, we are basically ready to go. Let's see what happens when we are in 3D and we run it. Yes, it's always same problem. Stop it. We didn't say to the source to input box number 2. So yeah, always remember, it's a very, very common mistake. So we run it now. So you see that the conveyors are, sending the packages and to the server, and a queue is building up. There is an improvement we can make to the model. We go back to the two-dimensional view, and in this case we can set the input buffer of the server to be 0. So we can accumulate all the different boxes on the conveyor and not along the input buffer of the server. So we set the buffer logic to be 0 in terms of capacity, and then we use the conveyor as a place where to accumulate things. So you see the animation here is not looking that great, and you see it seems like the boxes are overlapping, especially in this part of the model. And what's the reason why it's happening like that? It's very simple. I mean, when you look at the conveyor, you see this conveyor, we set a logical length of 5 meters, while the physical length, what is displayed in facility view, is just 3 blocks of this grid, which is 3 meters. So the logical length can accumulate quite a lot of boxes, but the physical one cannot, so the boxes are accumulating. So working with logical lengths with conveyors is probably not the best thing. It's better for a smoother visualization to work with the scale that you have, with the grid that you have on the facility view. So use the drawn to scale set to true and not to false.